again, Dr. Adriana Popescu with another episode of Triumphing Over Trauma, our inspirational video series that is designed to inspire hope, educate people about ways you can heal from trauma, and just be a beacon of light in this time of a lot of darkness here on our planet right now. So I'm really happy to have with me Dr. Lori Hops. She is a psychologist from Southern California who I know from the energy psychology community. She was, in fact, at one point the president of ASAP, the Energy Psychology Association. And I'm so excited to see you today, Lori.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I should say inviting me back because this is the
Yes.
second time that I've been on one of your podcasts. And you
Yes.
actually were on mine.
Yes, we've been on each other's podcasts, so we'll put links into this if you want to hear more from us. But yeah, Lori, would you mind sharing with us the experience that you had mentioned that you wanted to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I think it's okay to share that you and I have been at the ASAP conference Saturday night gala together
Yes.
and having conversation, having meal together and having fun. And we were talking about food restrictions at the dinner. And so you were sharing your story, your backstory about your own personal journey with food and allergies and illness and overcoming all of that. And then I was sharing mine um, personally, but also from the perspective of being a parent to children who had food allergies and other autoimmune concerns. And so we were both kind of like, me too, like saying that, like in the sense of I see you and I acknowledge what you're going through because I've had similar stories. So I was really excited to share it from a slightly different perspective of a parent. And so, regardless of what it is that your loved one has, whether it's an illness or a mental illness, physical, or a distance in a relationship, there's an extra kind of I guess, burden and opportunity that come with parenting. And so, in my particular instance, it was the food allergies were the thing that catapulted me into the energy psychology field because the medical options were not sufficient or complete enough. And so I had to start to look at other things like subtle energies and acupressure and acupuncture and Reiki and so on. But I think even deeper than finding answers, which partially helped, but not fully, was the personal journey.
Yeah.
And it's so different when you're dealing with your own body, your own skin, your own situation, your own limitations and breakthroughs, and when you're working on behalf of someone else. Because when you're working on behalf of someone else, you can only do so much. And there's like a special kind of a bitter pain and with love. I think that I felt that's probably universal when you really care about someone and you can only go so far, or you feel frustrated that you can't take away their pain or find answers soon enough or in the right way, or that if you have that it's not sufficient. So anyway, that was the kind of the gist of what I wanted to share today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not a parent, so I haven't dealt. I think there's something very unique about that particular relationship when
Mm-hmm.
it's your child who's struggling. But certainly, even those of us who aren't parents can, I think, relate to seeing someone you love in pain, seeing someone you love struggling with something, or what's really hard is when you can see that maybe this could help, or maybe that could help, and then maybe they don't want to. Like with adults, I find there's been some element of that that's shown up in our world. So what was the hardest part about dealing with all of this, and where are you now with this challenge as well?
So just, fast forward. So this was something my kids were born with that goes back as far as we can tell, maybe 4 or 5 or more generations on
Mm.
both sides of the family, or I should say on all sides. And so we were kind of like dealt the hand of this is what you're going to face. It
Mhm.
wasn't one of these like if you just give them peanuts when they're young, they'll outgrow it. It's like they had the full eczema, asthma, allergy gene was fully loaded and ready to go. So
Mhm.
there was that physical reality, and so that part of what was hard about that was the guilt.
Mm.
These are my biological children, and I have passed on this burden. But
Yes.
then I started to recognize that whatever was in my lineage, I could also help clean up
Mhm.
in ways that the generations before me were not even aware of, in terms, not just so much in terms of like allergy testing or washing stuffed animals every single week in and out no matter what and putting them in dryer, all the things, but the emotional load, the ancestral load, the fighting against yourself, of having the immune system attack itself, which is kind of like an internalized perpetrator victim dynamic.
Yeah.
When I started to understand that aspect from the psychodynamic, energetic perspectives, then I'm like, oh, there is something that I can do. I can do forgiveness work. I can do working with the ancestral line because of the perspectives that I have, that not all parents have, right? And
Mhm.
the tools. And so that helped. But I remember there being a turning point when my daughter, especially because she was firstborn, when she was becoming a teenager. And I remember thinking, like, I can't wrap her in cotton wool. I can't live her life for her. At
Mhm.
some point, I need to hand this dynamic to her 100%
Mhm.
and be alongside her rather than trying to take care of her. And I was a little afraid to do it energetically and consciously because I was afraid that she would get an onslaught of what I was holding.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
I'm holding back the floodwaters. And if
Yep.
I were to step aside, they would come rushing towards her.
Yeah.
But I knew that for her own life path and mine, that this was a necessary step, a very brave and necessary step. So I took it. And interestingly, she had a really, we were not living, I think she was away for the night or something happened, something where we were away from each other. And she came the next day and said, what happened?
Mm.
And she just had like all these fears come in and energy attacks and all kinds of stuff. And she said, I really felt the burden of this maybe for the first time. And I
Mhm.
was just like, whoa, like, oh no, did I do the wrong thing? But I helped her walk through that and over time. And then she began to carry that herself. And I'm happy to say now she's, an adult. So is my son. They are living independently. They like manage their own stuff really well. They've had improvements. I actually had some stuff come back to me that I
Mm.
think was brewing from my childhood. And then when I was done taking care of them, like I got to kind of pick up my own baggage and have to work through some things. So it's a personal story, but I think it's a story that a lot of people can relate to. If you
Yes.
give yourself the permission to walk that narrow bridge and
Mhm.
say, okay, I have to let this go.
Mhm.
This isn't mine. This is partly mine, and I have some of it, but it's not my life.
Yeah.
So,
That is such a hard line because, because easily it can tip over this direction into kind of codependency,
yes,
right? And doing for others instead of, and enabling them to not have to look at their side of the street and do the work that they may have to do. And I think it's harder because you're talking about children versus grown
right.
people, right? So, yeah. What were some like practices or tools that you used to take care of yourself as you were trying to walk that tight line and just going through all of this, really? Like what were some specific things that helped you?
Well, the first thing that really helped me specifically to food allergies was to join the food allergy, at the time it was called Food Allergy Network.
Mm.
It was kind of an intro into ASAP, oddly enough. It was the first time that I joined an organization with a specific mission of something that was affecting my life personally that could really help. And I wound up meeting other families that were going through similar things. We all had little kids, trying to make sure that the peanut butter wasn't anywhere near them at the park, and wiping down. Like it was
Yep.
crazy, yeah, all the stuff. But nobody understood what we were going through better than the other parents. And then it gave the other kids, I mean, sadly to say, the only thing we could serve for snack was water
Mm.
because everybody was allergic to somebody else's safe food. But at least they were together,
Yeah.
and we got to like do fun things like for Halloween dress up but not have food. so they had like kind of a social life that was safer, and we could all relax because we knew that everybody had their own EpiPen or whatever. So
Wow.
part of it was community and sharing stories
Hmm.
and feeling validated. But as my kids got older and they needed more care on an energetic level, then I started to, I would be the guinea pig.
Hmm.
I took the homeopathy. I did the Reiki training. I did all the things, the energy psychology techniques on myself to see, is this something that I can vet to then share with them? And so it was a dance between me trying things out on myself and then sharing with them and then getting the feedback from them. They all became like adept at Reiki for themselves. So part of it was me like nurturing myself as I was like their teacher
Hmm.
and collaborator and supporter. And the other thing I would say is that personally for me was a really strong strengthening of my spiritual path.
Yeah.
That, because that unseen force is the thing that you're like, this is beyond me and to solve. And also, there has to be, for me, there had to be a force bigger than all of it that was holding it, that had purpose, that had meaning, that had connection, that I could draw from.
Yes.
So, and that took a variety of pathways, some
Hmm.
that were dead ends for me, some that opened up to new friendships and new communities like ASAP, and really developing more of my own intuition
Hmm.
in a stronger way, because not only did I need it as an alert system to see when someone else was in trouble or when I was having a hard time, but to also guide me towards like the glittery path that was
Hmm.
sustaining me and making me feel like I was one with the world rather than against it.
Yes. And I mean, we could have a whole separate conversation about allergies and the energetic aspects of allergies and how much is about like, when people are becoming allergic. I've noticed this like to you can become allergic to people and to like any frequency, right? It doesn't just about a food or a cloth, a fabric or pollen or whatever it is.
Yeah,
People can get that and how much of that is I'm not safe. There's like that immune system's responding to a perceived threat,
yeah,
which with an overactive amygdala, like someone who's experienced trauma might be, just like a misfiring of an immune response. I mean, we could go 1,000 different directions on that. So I say that just to let people know that there are so many other perspectives besides the Western medical perspective around these things. I remember at one point, I too, Western medicine failed me when I had become allergic to everything in my environment. And they were giving me these, like, what, 3 times a week? I can't remember, allergy shots.
yeah,
And it turned out that I was allergic to the medium that the shot was in, whatever the
yeah,
preservative or whatever. I mean, so it was only making it worse.
yeah,
And then I think the other thing that you said that's so important is the spiritual component. I know for me, my journey of going through illness was a spiritual journey. It had a dark night of the soul. I had to tap into my own healing capacities to be able to recover. And
hmm,
I think trauma is the same, the trauma that comes with all of that, or even any other kind of trauma. When we're talking about post traumatic growth, which is I think the stage that you're in, you know it is a spiritual journey, and you have to make meaning and sense out of it. I mean, and you're forever changed by it, because that was going to be my question, is like, how are you different now than you were before all of this happened?
I'm less afraid.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to be afraid of. So then, there's the naivete, and then
Yes.
there's the reality of it. It's like, oh, like the tiniest touch
Yeah.
of fresh skin on a picnic bench could be the end of a life. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know I had to be afraid of that,
Right.
or let's just say aware of it.
Hmm.
And so then, the fear can paralyze. So then, you have to thaw from the fear and then get empowered and get educated.
Hmm.
But I think that it's, when you go through harrowing experiences of any kind, it puts you directly in touch with death
Yes.
and with your greatest fears.
Hmm.
And regardless of whether tragedy strikes or you triumph or both, you're forever changed. And it changes your personality, your outlook. It sometimes it can separate you from others because you feel as if you've entered an understanding about life that is deep and transformative. And, they say, like, for example, that when you go through something big like that, that sometimes your name changes
Mm-hmm.
because it's like your whole identity shifts. And
Right.
then you have to try to integrate that with the past and the people around you, your new understanding of your identity. So I would say that I am more knowledgeable and less afraid.
Yeah. Beautiful. So my last question is, Lori, if someone were struggling right now and they're in a different stage of this and
Yeah.
they're early on and they're struggling with their own experience, their own illness or trauma, or a loved one who is struggling, what advice or suggestions would you give them?
Hmm. Everyone has their own path, and so there's no one size fits all.
Mhm.
But I think it's a combination of taking a snapshot of three different timelines.
Mm,
One is the past, one is the present, and one is the future.
mhm,
And in the past, you get really quiet and honest with yourself, whatever that means, through therapy or journaling or taking a walk or talking to a friend or talking to yourself on a video and watching it back. But here's the questions I would ask. What was my biggest obstacle and how did I overcome it in the past? And what did I learn about myself? How can that be applied or not to right here and now? And what else do I need resource wise? And if I don't know what it is that I do need, I can just ask. Open
mhm,
yourself to saying yes to whatever your next step is.
mhm.
And then do some time travel to the future and put yourself in the place and time when you are settled. Maybe not fully at peace, but you are settled with what is. And then see if you can create a link between that future place and your current state.
Mm. I love that. That's like tapping into the quantum of things. It's super cool. Thank you so much, Lori, for being willing to share your story with us, and for the audience for tuning in. If people want to find out more about you, your work, where should they go?
Two places. One is thank you for that, and thank you for having me, and really cool conversation. So my website is drlorihops.com. That's drlorihops.com. And then I also have the podcast, Healing Tips from the Heart, Intuitions with Helpers, Healers, and Guides. And the website for that is hopshealingtips.com. So HOPS healingtips.com. So those
Great.
are the two main ways that you can get a hold of me and see my offerings and all the work that I'm doing and creative exploration and teaching and so on. So yeah,
Definitely check it out. We'll put links as well in the
great.
show description so people can just click on that. Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in. We're really trying to get this information out there in the hands of as many people as who need it, who are searching for inspiration and hope. So please do share this. I was going to call it a podcast. Please do share this video series. Please do share, subscribe, review, like, all the things you can do to get it out there, get those algorithms working. And we'll see you next time with another episode of Triumphing Over Trauma. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.